spotlight. Instead, it settles quietly, like a subtle shift in the atmosphere, barely noticeable to most, but unmistakable to the few observant enough to sense it. This man moves through life with a softness that conceals his strength, and with a strength that never needs to be proven. He is what many have come to call the Sigma male, though the label is secondary. What matters is the essence behind it, the psychological architecture that shapes the way he thinks, behaves, and engages with the world. His nature is not defined by rebellion or aloofness, but by internal order. He does not place his identity in dominance or compliance. He simply exists in alignment with himself, even when that alignment quietly sets him apart. The longer you observe him, the more you notice something unusual. His calm is not passive. His silence is not uncertainty. His distance is not coldness. His independence is not performed. It is intrinsic. He carries himself like someone who has learned to listen inwardly before he moves outwardly. And this inward listening produces behaviors many find strange or hard to understand. But these behaviors are not random. They are the expressions of a mind that protects its peace, values truth, and understands the cost of living without intention. He does not compete for status because status has no authority over him. He does not seek validation because he has spent years building an inner world where outside approval holds little weight. He does not chase social belonging because he has learned that belonging means nothing if it demands the abandonment of authenticity. So the world watches his quiet withdrawals, his intense focus, his emotional restraint, and his minimalist lifestyle, and calls them weird. Yet these are not signs of dysfunction. They are marks of self-governance. And as you listen to the 11 habits that follow, notice what resonates. It may not be that you want to become a Sigma. It may simply be that deep down, you already operate this way, and you are finally hearing your own nature reflected back to you with clarity. Point 1. They disappear without explanation. When a Sigma male senses that his internal space is becoming congested, he quietly withdraws, not as an act of vanishing, but as an instinctive return to equilibrium. He does not announce his departure because it is not meant to be interpreted personally. It is a mental retreat, a cleansing of overstimulation, a reset of psychological clarity. The Sigma's mind is always active, processing, evaluating, analyzing. Social environments often flood the mind with signals that take time to decode. So the Sigma disappears, quietly and without fanfare, to gather himself. During these moments, he is not lonely, he is resting, he is recalibrating, he is decompressing from the noise of interacting with a world that pulls at his attention in ways others don't understand. People who rely on external engagement may interpret his withdrawal as avoidance, but for him, it is nourishment. It is the preservation of the inner world he depends on. Point 2, they observe before they engage. A Sigma's first instinct in any environment is to observe, not out of fear or hesitation, but out of wisdom. He knows that people reveal more through their unconscious behavior than through their words. He watches how someone reacts under pressure, how they treat those with no advantage to offer, and how their tone shifts when speaking to different people. Observation provides safety. It provides understanding. It gives the Sigma the information he needs to decide whether engagement is worthwhile. While others rush into conversations or social dynamics blindly, the Sigma takes his time. His pace may seem slow, but it is intentional. He engages only when he has context. He speaks only when he has clarity. He responds only when he has processed the meaning behind the moment. This makes him appear perceptive, wise, and unshakable, even though he's simply doing what feels natural. Point 3, they rehearse conversations in their mind before speaking. A Sigma often runs simulations in his mind, not out of anxiety, but out of desire for precision. He values clarity in his words and prefers communication that is thoughtful rather than impulsive. His inner monologue is detailed, layered, and analytical. He anticipates questions, prepares answers, refines his tone, and considers the emotional implications of what he might say. This mental rehearsal gives his conversations a quiet weight. People feel the intention behind his words. They sense that he does not speak to fill silence, but to offer something meaningful. This habit also protects him. By thinking ahead, he avoids misunderstandings, emotional reactions, and unnecessary conflict. The Sigma's mind is a workshop, constantly shaping the most accurate expression of his thoughts. Point 4, they feel drained by shallow interactions. A Sigma male's discomfort with superficial conversation is often labeled antisocial, but the truth is much simpler. Shallow interactions offer him no nourishment. They activate none of his deeper cognitive abilities. They stimulate none of his emotional curiosity. They evoke none of his internal meaning-making. To the Sigma, meaningless chatter is like eating empty calories. It fills space, but adds nothing. He craves conversations that explore ideas, values, experiences, and deeper observations about life. He wants authenticity, not entertainment. He wants clarity, not chatter. And because he rarely finds depth in everyday social environments, he saves his energy. He engages selectively. He speaks less, listens more, and conserves his emotional bandwidth for people who can meet him beneath the surface. Point 5, they live minimalistically without trying. Minimalism is not a trend for the Sigma. It is a natural psychological preference. His mind rejects unnecessary clutter because clutter creates cognitive friction. He keeps only what he uses, and he uses what he keeps. His environment is clean, simple, and functional. He values items that serve a purpose, not items that signal a status. To others, this may look like discipline. To him, it feels like ease. He is not attached to possessions because possessions do not define him. He finds comfort in simplicity because simplicity frees his mind from distractions. A Sigma's environment is not barren. It is intentional. It reflects what his mind prioritizes: clarity, order, and the freedom to think without noise. Point 6, they lose track of time when focused. When a Sigma becomes absorbed in a task, he enters a deep state of cognitive immersion. Time dissolves, hunger fades, background noise disappears. This is not hyperfixation. It is flow. A Sigma's mind thrives in states of uninterrupted concentration. He finds fulfillment in depth, whether he is learning a skill, solving a problem, building a project, or refining an idea. This ability to lose himself in focus is one of his greatest strengths. It is also one of his most misunderstood traits. People may think he is distant, distracted, or uninterested, but in truth, he is simply absorbed in the internal world, where he feels most at home. Point 7, they analyze their emotions instead of reacting to them. A Sigma does not fear his emotions, he studies them. When he feels anger, he asks where it comes from. When he feels sadness, he searches for the meaning beneath it. When he feels stress, he identifies the source. His emotional world is treated like data, something to be examined rather than obeyed. This does not make him emotionally detached, it makes him emotionally intelligent. By analyzing rather than reacting, he avoids impulsive decisions, protects his relationships, and maintains internal stability. This reflective emotional habit allows him to move through life with clarity, even in chaotic environments. Point 8, they remove themselves from drama instantly. A Sigma has an extremely low tolerance for unnecessary emotional turbulence. The moment he senses manipulation, chaos, gossip, or escalating tension, he withdraws, not gradually, instantly. His peace is not negotiable. His mental clarity is too valuable to be clouded by toxic dynamics. This instinct often confuses those who expect emotional participation or reaction, because most people are conditioned to meet tension with more tension, to argue back, to defend themselves, to prove a point, or to get swept into the emotional current of others. But the Sigma sees the world through a different psychological filter. He understands something most people overlook. Involvement comes with a cost. Every reaction demands energy. Every argument drains focus. Every moment spent inside someone else's chaos pulls him away from his own path. To a Sigma, the mind is sacred internal territory, and drama is an intruder. He refuses to pay for drama with his attention, energy, or emotional stability. Instead, he chooses the higher path of disengagement, not out of fear, not out of weakness, but out of disciplined emotional sovereignty. He knows that silence is often more powerful than confrontation, and distance is more effective than trying to fix people who are committed to dysfunction. A Sigma's withdrawal is a psychological boundary, a conscious act of self-respect, and a reminder that not every battle deserves participation. Those who misunderstand him may label it coldness, but in reality it is mastery, the ability to protect his inner world without apology. Point 9, they keep an extremely small inner circle. A Sigma male may know many people but trust very few, because trust to him is not a social gesture, it is a spiritual contract. His inner circle is intentionally small, not out of arrogance, but out of emotional wisdom. He understands that intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability must be earned. Integrity, loyalty, and authenticity are the currencies he values most. He seeks relationships where he can exist without performance, where he doesn't have to shrink or exaggerate himself to be accepted. Because few people embody these qualities, his meaningful connections are rare, but profoundly deep. His relationships may be limited in number, yet they are fortified by mutual respect, shared values, and emotional safety. The Sigma instinctively knows that opening his inner world gives someone access to his most unfiltered layers. So he observes quietly patterns, motives, consistency before allowing closeness. While others rush into friendships out of loneliness or societal pressure, the Sigma embraces solitude, using it to recharge and to see people clearly. Every person he trusts has been evaluated through discernment, not judgment. He watches how they treat others, how they act when unseen, and whether their actions match their words. Only those who embody honesty and steadiness earn a place in his circle. Once they do, he offers rare loyalty and unwavering presence. Sigmas do not half love or half commit. They give deeply because they give selectively. This is why their bonds carry weight. They are rooted in alignment, not convenience. In a world obsessed with social quantity, the Sigma thrives with a chosen few, knowing one loyal soul is worth more than 100 hollow connections. Point 10, they overthink in a productive way. A Sigma's mind rarely stops, and yet this constant activity is not the frantic noise most people associate with overthinking. It is structured, disciplined, and quietly methodical. While others drown in scattered thoughts, the sigma channels us into a deliberate mental process, almost like a private strategy room where every idea, emotion, and possibility is laid out for examination. He analyzes problems from multiple angles, not because he is paranoid, but because he understands that life is complex and outcomes are rarely linear. He considers long-term consequences, thinking months or even years ahead, tracing the ripple effects of a single decision. To him, nothing exists in isolation. Every choice carries an echo, and he listens closely to how far that echo will travel. He imagines various outcomes and prepares mentally for each, not from fear, but from foresight. This gives him an unusual calmness during conflict or crisis. While others react impulsively, the Sigma has already rehearsed several paths in his mind and can step into the situation with clarity instead of panic. His overthinking, therefore, is not a burden. It is a tool, a personal compass that prevents him from walking blindly into problems that could have been avoided. It helps him make better decisions by slowing down impulsive urges and forcing him to confront truth rather than convenience. It shields him from repeating mistakes because he studies the patterns behind them. It even protects his emotional world, allowing him to detach, reflect, and respond with intention, instead of drowning in reactive feelings. This depth of inner processing makes him appear prepared, wise, and emotionally steady, even though he is simply processing life at a deeper level than most people ever attempt. Others may misinterpret his silence as withdrawal, but in reality that silence is his mind sorting through variables, truths, and hidden meanings. Overthinking is often labeled as a flaw, but in the Sigma male it becomes an advanced form of self-navigation. It is the quiet mechanism that sharpens his intuition, strengthens his judgment, and allows him to walk through life not just observing the world, but understanding it. Point 11, they improve themselves quietly. A Sigma does not announce his self-improvement journey. He does not brag about his growth. He does not seek validation for his progress. Instead, he evolves silently, moving through life with a quiet discipline that requires no audience. When others shout about their goals and broadcast their ambitions, the Sigma chooses the opposite path, the private path, the path where development happens away from noise and comparison. He reads books quietly, absorbing wisdom without needing anyone to witness it. He learns new skills quietly, stacking abilities the way a craftsman sharpens his tools patiently, consistently, without applause. He heals quietly, confronting his wounds in solitude, not for sympathy, but for clarity and renewal. He levels up quietly, understanding that true transformation is not a performance, but a personal contract between who he is and who he intends to become. His evolution is internal, long before it becomes visible. His habits shift, his mindset strengthens, his boundaries sharpen, and his spirit deepens, all before anyone else notices. And when the results finally break the surface, people often say, he changed overnight, unaware that the overnight change they see was built through months or years of unseen effort, private battles, and disciplined refinement. This misunderstanding never bothers the Sigma, because external acknowledgement was never the goal. A Sigma improves for himself, not for recognition. His growth is between him and his potential, between the man he is and the man he knows he can be. He does not evolve to impress the world. He evolves to meet the quiet expectations of his own soul. And that is why his transformation, once revealed, feels powerful, undeniable, and entirely authentic. And as we reach the end of this journey, pause for a moment. Let everything you've heard settle softly into your awareness. The Sigma path is not loud, it is not dramatic, it is not rushed. It unfolds quietly, steadily, in the background of a man's life, shaping him in ways that others rarely notice until the transformation becomes impossible to ignore. These habits are not rules to follow, nor traits to imitate. They are simply mirrors. Mirrors that reveal the quieter, deeper rhythms within a man who values internal truth over external noise, who chooses depth over distraction, who walks slowly, intentionally, without needing permission to be himself. If you found yourself in these words, even in small ways, understand this: nothing is wrong with the way you move. You are not strange for needing solitude. You are not distant for valuing depth. You are not cold for being selective with your energy. You are not difficult for wanting clarity and peace. You're simply someone whose inner world speaks louder than the outer one. And that is not a weakness. It is a rare kind of strength, a strength that grows quietly, a strength that does not need applause, a strength that guides you even when no one else can see your direction. As you move through the rest of your day, carry this calmness with you. Carry this awareness, carry this permission to be exactly who you are without shrinking yourself to fit a world that often misunderstands men like you. Walk with intention, think with depth, protect your peace. And remember, this Sigma journey is not about becoming something. It is about returning to yourself, slowly, quietly, fully. Thank you for spending this time here. Until next time, take care of your mind, your energy, and your inner world. It is the most valuable place you will ever learn to master. There's something quietly unsettling about meeting a true Sigma male. Not unsettling in the sense of danger or hostility, but unsettling because he forces you to rethink the very fabric of how people move through the world. Most men, whether they realize it or not, follow predictable patterns. Some chase attention, others cling to groups. Many define their worth by external measures, status, wealth, approval. But a Sigma male, he moves differently. His very presence can feel like a mirror, reflecting back the hidden insecurities of those around him. That's why encountering one can feel almost disturbing. It unsettles what you thought you knew about strength, independence, and self-respect. Imagine walking into a room full of chatter, and in the corner sits a man quietly absorbed in his own thoughts. He isn't aloof, yet he's not seeking connection either. His calm detachment pulls your attention, not because he's trying to be seen, but because he's perfectly fine not being seen at all. That paradox alone sets him apart. What's truly fascinating is that real Sigma males aren't trying to project an image. They don't wake up in the morning thinking, I must appear mysterious today. Instead, their mystery flows naturally from a way of life that refuses to conform. They're not antisocial, but they are selective. They're not arrogant, but they don't bow to validation. Psychologists describe this as self-differentiation. The ability to maintain your identity without being consumed by the opinions, expectations, or pressures of others. Most people struggle with it their entire lives. For the Sigma, it's second nature, but here's where the disturbing part comes in. Meeting a Sigma often makes people uncomfortable, not because of anything he says or does, but because he reveals, by contrast, how much others are driven by noise. His independence exposes dependence. His calm exposes restlessness. His quiet exposes insecurity. So how do you know when you've actually encountered a real Sigma male and not just someone pretending? Today we'll explore 8 subtle signs that reveal his presence. These aren't loud signals. They don't announce themselves, but once you see them, you'll know. Let's begin. Number 1, his presence feels unhurried. A Sigma doesn't rush into conversations or force his way into circles. His presence is marked by patience, precision, and an ability to move at his own rhythm. In today's world, where quick replies, instant connections, and rapid-fire exchanges dominate, this calm and measured approach stands out like a rare gem. He is comfortable with pauses, silences, and letting moments breathe, which is often misunderstood in a culture that confuses speed with effectiveness. Instead of scrambling to fill every quiet space, he understands that silence carries weight. Psychologists even note that pauses in conversation can create deeper trust and allow people to process information more fully. This is why a Sigma's presence often feels grounding rather than rushed. From an evolutionary perspective, humans are wired to seek constant communication as a survival mechanism. Early tribes depended on fast exchanges of information to warn of danger or to coordinate group tasks. But what separated the thinkers and strategists of the past from the rest was their ability to step back, observe, and respond thoughtfully instead of reactively. Sigma males embody this ancient wisdom in a modern context. They don't view silence as awkward, but as a form of control, an opportunity to see beyond the noise of unnecessary chatter. In business meetings, social circles, or personal interactions, this ability often gives them the upper hand, because when they speak, people pay attention. Entertainment media often portrays such characters as the mysterious loner, the one who doesn't need to shout to be heard. Think of Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name, or Keanu Reeves' portrayal of John Wick, both calm, deliberate, and powerful precisely because they refuse to be rushed. These fictional figures mirror the psychological reality of Sigma males. Their strength lies in their ability to wait, observe, and move with precision. While the world rushes forward, they remind us that timelessness, patience, and control are often the true markers of confidence. In many ways, a Sigma's deliberate nature isn't just a personal trait, it's a quiet rebellion against the frantic pace of modern life. Number two, he doesn't compete for attention. Unlike men who crave external validation, a Sigma doesn't compete for recognition or fight to stand in the spotlight. His strength lies in his detachment from applause, because he understands that true value isn't measured by the noise of a crowd, but by the substance of one's character. History and psychology both remind us that the loudest voices are not always the most influential. Psychologists call this quiet confidence, a state where self-assurance comes not from constant affirmation, but from an internal compass rooted in clarity and self-awareness. This is why a Sigma's presence often speaks louder than any words. People notice him not because he demands attention, but because his lack of need for it creates an aura of mystery that naturally draws others in. Consider how this contrasts with traditional social hierarchies. In groups, most men unconsciously jockey for dominance, competing through status symbols, achievements, or charisma. Yet Sigmas disrupt this dynamic by stepping outside of it entirely. Anthropologists studying social structures note that those who detach from hierarchy often end up exerting more influence precisely because they don't seem to seek it. Think of thinkers like Nikola Tesla or philosophers like Soren Kierkegaard, men who weren't chasing recognition but whose legacies remain undeniable. The Sigma archetype reflects this same paradox. The refusal of attention often creates more of it. On a deeper level, this quiet strength resonates with how humans instinctively respond to contrast. In a noisy environment, silence is what captures attention. In a world obsessed with self-promotion, the man who doesn't advertise himself becomes magnetic. This isn't passivity, it's intentional restraint. A Sigma knows that real influence is not about being seen everywhere, but about leaving an impression when it matters. Just like gravity, invisible yet powerful, his confidence pulls others without effort. This is why his quietness often echoes louder than any shout. It unsettles, intrigues, and in time commands respect. Number three, he is immune to social pressure. In group settings, a Sigma male often stands out in subtle yet powerful ways. While many people instinctively mirror the majority opinion to feel included, he remains anchored in his own perspective. He listens carefully, not to respond or conform, but to weigh what's being said against his own inner compass. This independence of thought is rooted in psychology. Studies in social dynamics have shown that most people conform to group norms even when those norms are clearly flawed, a phenomenon famously revealed in Solomon Asch's conformity experiments of the 1950s. In those studies, participants gave obviously wrong answers simply because everyone else in the group did. The Sigma male, however, is less susceptible to such pressures. because his validation doesn't come from the crowd. It comes from within. This detachment from social approval doesn't make him arrogant, though it might appear that way to some. Instead, it reflects a self-sufficiency that allows him to filter ideas through his own reasoning. If the majority view aligns with his, he'll agree. But not because of numbers or popularity, only because he finds truth in it. If it doesn't, he's unafraid to stand alone. In evolutionary terms, such behavior echoes the role of outliers in human groups. While conformity ensured cohesion, nonconformists often drove innovation and survival by questioning assumptions or introducing new strategies. That same archetype lives on in the Sigma male today. What makes this especially fascinating is that his quiet resistance often unsettles others. When someone refuses to bend under group influence, it highlights how easily the rest do. This can trigger discomfort, even envy, because it exposes the fragility of their independence. Yet, far from rebelling for rebellion's sake, the Sigma male's stance is calm and deliberate. He is neither trying to dominate like the alpha nor blend like the beta. He simply chooses to remain true to his values. In a world that constantly urges conformity, through fashion, trends, or popular opinion, his inner compass becomes not just a personal strength, but also a reminder to others that individuality still has a place. Number 4, his energy feels self-contained. He doesn't drain others, nor does he feed off them. His energy feels balanced, like a closed circuit, calm, steady, and unshaken. This is why people often describe his presence as grounding. In psychology, this type of energy balance is linked to emotional regulation, the ability to manage one's internal state without relying heavily on external validation. Unlike extroverts, who often gain energy from social interaction, or highly dependent personalities who seek constant reassurance, a man with this centered aura maintains his vitality from within. It's a rare quality, and research in neuroscience even suggests that people who exhibit calm, regulated energy have lower cortisol levels, meaning they respond to stress more effectively. Think about how a grounded person feels in a chaotic environment, like a lighthouse in a storm. His presence doesn't just affect him, it influences those around him. Studies show that emotions can be contagious through a process called emotional resonance. When someone exudes calm stability, others often subconsciously match that frequency, experiencing reduced anxiety and greater clarity. This is why people describe such a presence as soothing or magnetic without being overpowering. He isn't trying to command the room, yet the room naturally adjusts to his rhythm. This balanced energy also connects to ancient wisdom traditions. In Taoism, the concept of yin and yang emphasizes harmony within oneself as the key to influencing the world. Similarly, Stoic philosophy taught that true strength comes from controlling one's inner state, rather than being controlled by external chaos. Modern mindfulness practices echo the same truth. The most powerful person is often the one who remains unshaken when everything else is unstable. In everyday life, this balance looks like the friend who listens without judgment, the colleague who doesn't panic when deadlines loom, or the man who remains composed during conflict. His energy doesn't spike or crash. It flows, steady and measured, like a circuit that powers itself. That is why people instinctively describe being near him as grounding. It's not just charisma, it's the science and art of inner balance radiating outward, silently reminding others of what true strength feels like. Number 5, he observes more than he speaks. A real Sigma watches carefully, and this watchfulness is not just casual observation, it's a deep, intentional awareness of his environment. Unlike many who rush to fill silence with chatter, the Sigma male understands that the quiet moments often reveal more than words ever could. Psychologists call this active observation, a skill linked to emotional intelligence, where a person is able to pick up on subtle cues such as body language, tone of voice, and even micro-expressions that flash across someone's face in a fraction of a second. These details can reveal hidden emotions like anxiety, attraction, or deception, things that most people miss because they are too focused on what's being said rather than how it's being said. When a Sigma does choose to speak, his words carry weight. This is not because he tries to sound wise, but because he values intention. Neuroscience suggests that silence can actually improve decision-making, as quiet reflection activates the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for thoughtful judgment. For the Sigma, silence is not uncomfortable or a void to be filled. It is a tool, a language in itself. This is why conversations with him often feel unusually profound. Even a pause, a glance, or a nod can communicate volumes, and those around him often find themselves re-evaluating their own thoughts after speaking with him. Interestingly, history shows that some of the most influential thinkers and leaders, such as Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, or Nikola Tesla, the inventor, embraced solitude and silence as part of their process. They understood that constant noise drowns out clarity while silence sharpens perception. The Sigma male embodies this same principle in modern life. His quiet observation is not detachment, it is mastery over distraction. He notices what others ignore and holds back until the right moment to speak, ensuring that when he does, people listen. In a world that prizes volume and visibility, the Sigma's silence unsettles because it cannot be easily read or controlled. He thrives in the understated power of restraint, proving that sometimes the most commanding presence is not the loudest voice in the room, but the one who listens the closest. This is what makes him both mysterious and impactful. His silence is not absence, it is presence amplified. Number 6, he avoids needless conflict. A Sigma doesn't waste energy proving himself because he understands that validation is a trap that keeps many men enslaved to external approval. Instead of flexing, boasting, or trying to dominate every interaction, he operates with quiet confidence. If someone challenges him, his instinct is rarely to escalate into conflict. Rather, he either withdraws or addresses the situation with precision, conserving his energy for battles that actually matter. This is not weakness, it is discipline. In fact, research in psychology shows that people who practice restraint in emotionally charged situations demonstrate higher levels of emotional intelligence. Unlike those who react impulsively, the Sigma uses logic and foresight to respond in ways that maintain his dignity and control. History and culture provide countless examples of this principle. Take the samurai of feudal Japan, who followed the Bushido code. Self-control, discipline, and the avoidance of unnecessary conflict were considered marks of true strength. Similarly, Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius emphasized responding to provocation with composure, noting that the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. This philosophy aligns perfectly with the Sigma male's mindset. He doesn't feel the need to prove himself to anyone because he knows his worth is not determined by outside recognition but by his own actions and principles. In today's fast-paced world where bravado and loudness often get mistaken for strength, the Sigma male's calm restraint can feel unsettling to others. Imagine being in a heated debate where one person is shouting, throwing insults, and trying to overpower everyone with noise. The Sigma, however, sits back, lets the chaos unfold, and then makes one sharp, deliberate statement that silences the room. His words carry weight precisely because they are not wasted. This ability to stay composed under pressure often makes him appear intimidating, even if he hasn't raised his voice once. What makes this discipline even more powerful is that it protects the Sigma's mental energy. Modern neuroscience tells us that constant reactivity drains the brain's resources, leading to stress and burnout. By avoiding unnecessary escalation, the Sigma conserves his focus for pursuits that truly matter, his goals, passions, and personal freedom. He doesn't need the last word, he needs results. That's why his restraint is not avoidance, but a strategic choice. A demonstration that real power lies not in the noise you make, but in the control you maintain. Number 7, he is unmoved by status symbols. Luxury cars, titles, or popularity hold little weight with a Sigma male because his sense of worth is rooted in something far deeper than external validation. Unlike many who measure success through material possessions or social recognition, he is driven by internal benchmarks, self-mastery, independence, and freedom. Psychologists often refer to this as the pursuit of goals for personal satisfaction rather than for outside applause. This inner compass creates a kind of stability that can feel unsettling to those who rely heavily on external approval. After all, in a world where social media likes and flashy displays of wealth often define status, encountering someone completely detached from that system is disarming. It challenges the very framework by which others measure themselves. Interestingly, studies in behavioral economics show that people who tie their self-worth to extrinsic markers often experience higher stress and lower overall well-being because such markers fluctuate with public opinion and circumstances. By contrast, individuals like the Sigma male cultivate resilience and peace of mind through self-validation. This detachment doesn't make him cold, rather it grants him the freedom to live authentically, unconcerned with playing society's games, which in turn unsettles those still caught in them. Number 8. You sense he could walk away at any time. Perhaps the most telling sign of a true Sigma male is the aura of freedom he carries. Unlike many people who cling to jobs, friendships, or relationships out of fear of being alone, a Sigma male refuses to let fear dictate his choices. He's not driven by a need for approval or security from others. Instead, he is anchored by his own principles. If a situation, job, or relationship violates his values, he does not create a scene, nor does he beg for acceptance. He simply walks away. This quiet self-reliance often unsettles those around him because in a world where conformity is the norm, such independence feels both mysterious and intimidating. Psychologists have noted that this kind of autonomy is rare in social dynamics. Humans are naturally wired for belonging. Evolutionary biology shows that survival once depended on being part of a group. To stand apart, therefore, requires a unique mindset. Sigma males embody this by valuing solitude, not as loneliness, but as a strength. Studies on introverted personalities, for example, suggest that those who thrive in solitude often develop deeper self-awareness and emotional resilience. This is precisely why a Sigma's detachment is not coldness, but a form of self-preservation and clarity. In practical terms, this means he does not stay in a toxic workplace just for the paycheck, nor does he remain in a draining friendship just to avoid awkwardness. Instead, he prioritizes inner peace over social comfort. That level of freedom is powerful. It sends a signal that his worth is not negotiable. While some may find it unnerving, it also commands respect. After all, in a world where most people fear letting go, the Sigma male proves that real strength lies in the ability to walk away. Meeting a real Sigma male is not about flashy gestures, clever words, or dramatic actions. It is about the subtle energy he carries, an energy that is quiet, steady, and unshaken by the currents of the world around him. In truth, what feels disturbing is not the Sigma himself, but the contrast he creates. He shows us how much noise we cling to, how deeply we rely on validation, and how often we sacrifice independence for acceptance. To recognize a Sigma is to recognize a different way of moving through life. He is not better than others, nor does he strive to be. He simply chooses freedom over approval, substance over appearance, and silence over noise. And in doing so, he becomes a reminder that true strength is rarely loud. It is often quiet, deliberate, and unbothered. So the next time you sense that grounded presence, the man who doesn't push to be noticed, yet is impossible to ignore, remember you may have just encountered a real Sigma male. And while it may feel unsettling, it is also an invitation to ask yourself where in your own life you can embody the same independence, the same restraint, and the same quiet strength. Because in the end, what disturbs us most about the Sigma is often the very thing we most need to learn. There are men who walk through life quietly, without the need for a stage or applause. They are not loud and they do not demand attention, yet their presence shifts the atmosphere of any room they enter. These men belong to what we often call the Sigma archetype, a path of independence, calm strength, and disciplined solitude. Unlike the constant striving of those who measure themselves against the world, Sigma males move according to an inner compass. They do not hurry to prove their worth, nor do they collapse under the weight of social pressures. Instead, they cultivate habits that may appear simple on the surface, but in reality, they require rare discipline and self-awareness. For ordinary men, these habits can be difficult, even uncomfortable. They require patience in a world that values speed, silence in a culture that rewards noise, and detachment in environments that thrive on validation. The Sigma chooses the harder road, not because he wishes to stand out, but because it aligns with his essence. Consider the habit of spending long hours in solitude. For most people, silence feels empty. something to be filled with chatter, distractions, or company. But for the Sigma, solitude is nourishment. It sharpens his thoughts and refines his sense of self. This single habit alone separates him from the ordinary, for few can endure the quiet long enough to find clarity in it. In this video, we will explore the habits of a Sigma male that are not easily imitated. These are not dramatic, high-energy practices, but steady, quiet disciplines that shape a man into something uncommon. So let us move slowly, taking our time as we uncover 8 Sigma male habits that ordinary men often struggle to live by. Number 1, embracing solitude without loneliness. Sigma males are not afraid of being alone. In fact, they embrace it. While many men see solitude as a form of isolation or even weakness, a Sigma understands that it is the very soil in which growth takes root. Science backs this up. Psychologists have long noted that time spent in solitude can sharpen creativity, improve focus, and even strengthen emotional regulation. For example, a study published in The found that individuals who regularly practiced solitude reported greater levels of self-reflection and long-term satisfaction than those who constantly sought social interaction. For a Sigma, being alone is never about loneliness, it's about alignment. It is in the quiet hours, away from noise and external influence, that he reflects on his path, learns from his past, and makes deliberate choices for his future. Many influential thinkers, like Nikola Tesla and Henry David Thoreau, also championed solitude as a wellspring of clarity and originality. Tesla once remarked that isolation was essential for invention, while Thoreau sought the wilderness of Walden Pond to better understand life itself. This mirrors the Sigma's instinct, stepping back from the crowd to hear the sound of his own thoughts. Ordinary men, on the other hand, often struggle with silence. Craving constant validation, attention, or distraction, they find an empty room unbearable because it forces them to confront themselves without filters. The Sigma sees this differently. He knows that self-mastery cannot be achieved in the clamor of endless chatter. It must be forged in the discipline of solitude. This doesn't mean he rejects people. Rather, he values connection that is authentic and purposeful, not built on fear of being alone. In solitude, the Sigma strengthens his inner resolve like a warrior sharpening his blade. He emerges from quiet seasons not weaker but sharper, more disciplined and more aware of who he is. Where others dread the silence, he thrives in it, proving that solitude is not an absence of life, it is the foundation of growth. Number 2, quiet observation before action. Rather than rushing into situations, the Sigma male observes. He listens more than he speaks and studies before he acts. This habit of patience allows him to move with precision, while others waste energy reacting too quickly. In many ways, this trait mirrors the principles found in psychology and history alike. For instance, researchers in cognitive science have shown that impulsive decision-making often activates the brain's limbic system, the emotional center, whereas deliberate, patient thinking engages the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational judgment and planning. This means that patience is not just a personality quirk, it is a neurological advantage that helps reduce errors and improve outcomes. Throughout history, some of the most effective leaders and thinkers have embodied this Sigma-like patience. Military strategist Sun Tzu wrote in that victory belongs to those who can wait, observe, and strike at the precise moment. Similarly, Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors of modern times, has often credited patience as the cornerstone of his wealth-building strategy. While markets swing wildly with fear and greed, Buffett sits back, studies trends, and waits for the right opportunity, turning patience into profit. For the Sigma male, this practice is not about laziness or hesitation. Instead, it is a conscious rejection of the culture of haste. In today's world, where instant responses and quick reactions dominate, his stillness can be misunderstood as passivity. Yet research in behavioral economics shows that those who delay gratification often achieve greater success in the long run. The famous marshmallow experiment conducted at Stanford University demonstrated that children who resisted eating a marshmallow immediately in order to receive 2 later tended to perform better academically and socially as adults. The Sigma male lives by a similar principle, choosing foresight over impulse. This way of moving through life is what sets him apart. His silence is not emptiness, but strategy. his delay not weakness but control. While others burn themselves out in the frenzy of constant action, the Sigma male conserves his energy, stepping forward only when the path is clear. That is why, when he finally acts, his moves appear almost effortless, as though he had known the outcome all along. Number 3, refusal to chase validation. Where ordinary men may measure their worth through recognition, the Sigma is content with his own approval. He does not adjust his values to gain applause. This freedom from external validation is rare, yet it grants him immense inner peace. In psychology, this quality is often linked to what Abraham Maslow described as self-actualization, the highest stage of human development, where a person lives authentically, guided by inner principles rather than external rewards. Most people, consciously or not, chase validation, from social media likes to workplace praise, because human beings are wired with a deep need for belonging. Studies in social psychology confirm that external validation can light up the same brain regions as receiving a tangible reward. Yet while this can boost confidence temporarily, it often leads to dependency. The Sigma male avoids this trap by finding satisfaction in his own judgment, which builds long-term resilience. History offers countless examples of individuals who lived this way. Think of Nikola Tesla, who was largely ignored and even ridiculed in his time, yet persisted with his vision because he valued his own convictions over recognition. Or consider the Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, who reminded himself daily that the opinions of others were fleeting and beyond his control. This perspective echoes what Sigmas embody in daily life, a quiet refusal to compromise their identity for approval. Educationally, this habit challenges us to reflect on our own relationship with validation. Are our choices shaped by our inner compass or by the desire to be seen and applauded? Entertainingly, you might picture the Sigma as the man at a crowded party, who doesn't need to be the loudest voice in the room. He stands at the edge, calm and observant, and somehow his stillness speaks louder than any performance. Ordinary men may struggle with this, because in a world driven by visibility and applause, choosing silence and self-approval seems almost rebellious. Yet it is precisely this rebellion that grants the Sigma his peace, his strength, and his mysterious pull. Number 4, self-discipline in daily life. Whether it is in fitness, work, or study, Sigma males maintain discipline without ever needing to broadcast it. They are not the type to post their early morning gym sessions on social media or boast about how many hours they studied the night before. Instead, they quietly live in a rhythm of structure and consistency, rising early, following routines, and sticking to their commitments even when no one is watching. This hidden discipline is what separates them from ordinary men, who often rely heavily on external accountability, whether it's a boss, a coach, or the fear of public judgment, to stay on track. A Sigma male's drive comes from within, rooted in self-mastery rather than social validation. Psychologists refer to this quality as intrinsic motivation, where an individual is fueled by inner values and goals rather than outside rewards. Studies on habit formation have shown that routines anchored in intrinsic motivation are far more sustainable, which explains why Sigma males are able to maintain consistency over years, not just weeks. For example, in fitness, an ordinary man might hit the gym hard for a month when motivated by a friend or a trainer, but quickly fall off when that support fades. A Sigma male, on the other hand, views the gym as a non-negotiable part of his day, much like brushing his teeth or eating breakfast. He does not need applause for his effort. The act itself is the reward. This discipline extends beyond physical health. In their studies or careers, Sigma males practice what productivity experts call deep work, the ability to focus without distraction on cognitively demanding tasks. While ordinary men might procrastinate until deadlines loom, Sigmas carve out consistent blocks of time to chip away at their goals. Over time, this quiet persistence compounds like interest in a bank account, yielding results that seem extraordinary to others but are simply the natural outcome of daily discipline. It is this rare blend of intrinsic motivation, routine, and consistency that allows Sigma males to build lives of strength and independence without ever needing the spotlight to validate their efforts. Number 5. Selective social energy. Sigma males interact with others carefully, and this is often misunderstood. To many observers, their behavior can seem detached or distant, as though they are uninterested in people or unwilling to connect. But the reality is far more nuanced. Sigma males are not antisocial. Instead, they are selective, choosing quality over quantity when it comes to relationships and interactions. This careful selection is rooted in the idea of energy preservation. Human psychology and neuroscience confirm that social interactions consume cognitive and emotional resources. A study published in highlighted how prolonged social engagement can increase stress markers in introverted personalities. Sigma males, though not strictly introverts, naturally apply this awareness by guarding their time and energy from shallow or draining connections. Rather than spreading themselves thin across multiple superficial relationships, they invest deeply in a few meaningful ones. This approach is not about rejection of others, but about alignment with authenticity. Think of it like the principle of Dunbar's number, a concept in anthropology that suggests humans can only maintain around 150 stable social relationships at once. Sigma males unconsciously narrow this further, recognizing that intimacy, trust, and genuine respect are diluted when one tries to engage with too many people. By focusing on fewer bonds, they maintain emotional clarity and avoid unnecessary drama. This refined social strategy has practical benefits. It allows them to remain adaptable, independent, and focused on their goals without constant distraction from external noise. Unlike extroverts, who may draw energy from crowds, or alphas, who thrive on dominance within groups, Sigmas prioritize internal balance. Their careful interactions ensure that when they do give their presence, it carries weight and meaning. Others often sense this difference. Conversations with Sigmas tend to feel intentional rather than performative. This is why people may describe them as mysterious or difficult to access. They are not withholding, but deliberate. In many ways, this guarded energy mirrors historical and cultural figures known for their restraint. Think of Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, who valued contemplation and self-discipline over constant social immersion. Today, in an age of endless notifications and shallow digital connections, the Sigma's approach serves as a quiet rebellion. It is not detachment, it is discernment. By interacting carefully, they preserve the rare ability to show up authentically with full presence when it truly matters. Number 6, thinking long-term, acting slowly. In a world that constantly rewards speed and instant gratification, the Sigma male operates on a very different wavelength. He is not caught up in the rush of chasing the next thrill, the newest trend, or the quickest reward. Instead, his mindset is firmly planted in the long game. This does not mean he is slow or passive, far from it. It means he values foresight, patience, and the kind of discipline that most men find difficult to maintain. While others often choose what feels good in the moment, the Sigma invests in skills, builds habits, and makes decisions with the future in mind. This quiet strategy is what sets him apart. Psychologists often call this delayed gratification, the ability to resist immediate temptations in order to achieve larger, long-term goals. One of the most famous studies on this subject was the Stanford marshmallow experiment in the 1970s. Children were given a choice: eat one marshmallow now or wait and receive two later. The children who managed to wait ended up years down the line with higher levels of success in education, careers, and even personal relationships. The Sigma male naturally embodies this principle in his daily life. He knows that true growth takes time, whether it is mastering a new skill, nurturing a relationship, or building financial independence. This foresight protects him from the pitfalls of haste. Many people rush into decisions, spending money they do not have, chasing relationships they are not ready for, or accepting jobs that only drain their energy, only to pay the price later. The Sigma male avoids this trap by pausing, reflecting, and then acting with precision. This doesn't make him rigid, rather, it makes him adaptable. By thinking ahead, he has already considered possible outcomes, which means he can pivot without losing his balance. In modern society, where credit cards promise instant purchases and social media promises instant attention, the ability to think long-term is a rare strength. Sigma males understand that real power comes not from the rush of the moment, but from the accumulation of wise decisions over time. They play a quieter, smarter game, investing in themselves when no one is watching, and reaping the rewards when others are left wondering how they manage to stay so steady. This is the hidden advantage of foresight, and it's why Sigmas often thrive where ordinary men stumble. Number 7, emotional detachment in conflict. When disagreements arise, the Sigma male does not meet them with chaos or fiery outbursts. Instead, he takes the opposite route, remaining calm, detached, and rational. Where most men might raise their voices or let emotions dictate their actions, the Sigma treats conflict as a test of composure. His approach is not about avoiding confrontation, but about mastering it. By maintaining emotional control, he disarms the situation and keeps the power in his hands. This quiet, calculated response often leaves others unsettled because they expect anger or drama and instead meet unshakable calm. This quality is rooted in psychology. Studies in emotional intelligence show that individuals who regulate their emotions effectively are better at conflict resolution and decision-making. Sigmas embody this principle naturally. Instead of reacting impulsively, they allow the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of the brain, to take charge rather than the amygdala, which triggers emotional responses like anger or fear. This ability to stay grounded gives them a sharp advantage, whether in personal relationships or professional settings. History even offers parallels. Figures such as Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, emphasized composure in the face of adversity, writing that true strength is measured not by controlling others, but by controlling oneself. What makes this even more fascinating is how the Sigma's calmness transforms conflict into opportunity. While others drain their energy through arguments, the Sigma conserves his, using logic and strategy to guide the outcome. This mirrors negotiation tactics used by diplomats and successful leaders who know that patience and rationality are often more effective than force. In social interactions, his detached demeanor can create an air of mystery, leaving others guessing what he truly thinks, which in turn shifts the balance of control in his favor. In everyday life, this behavior is rare because it requires discipline, self-awareness, and practice. For most men, ego and emotion often override reason. The Sigma, however, is not driven by the need to prove himself in the heat of the moment. He understands that true influence comes from restraint. By choosing silence over shouting, patience over provocation, and strategy over impulse, he not only resolves disagreements but also demonstrates a deeper mastery, one that sets him apart from ordinary men. Number 8, constant inner learning. Perhaps the most enduring habit of a Sigma is his commitment to learning. Unlike many who consume knowledge casually, a Sigma male treats learning as a lifelong pursuit, one that demands reflection and depth. He does not settle for surface-level information or fleeting trends. Instead, he immerses himself in books, observations, and experiences that challenge his mind. Studies in psychology suggest that people who adopt this reflective approach to learning often develop stronger critical thinking skills and greater adaptability, traits that align perfectly with the Sigma's independent nature. History offers countless examples of men who embodied this discipline. Leonardo da Vinci filled his notebooks with sketches and questions about everything from anatomy to astronomy, while modern figures like Elon Musk have credited their success to voracious self-education across multiple fields. For the Sigma, life itself becomes the classroom, with every setback, success, and quiet moment serving as a lesson. He does not measure progress by diplomas or titles, but by the wisdom gained from observation and contemplation. This is why the Sigma often appears ahead of his time, because he invests in learning not as a requirement, but as a way of life, ensuring that growth never truly ends. The habits of a Sigma male are not random quirks, but carefully developed patterns rooted in psychology and discipline. Studies on personality frameworks, particularly those expanding from Carl Jung's archetypes, suggest that introverted yet highly independent individuals often thrive by creating structured routines that prioritize self-mastery over external validation. This is why Sigma habits look so unusual to others. They don't follow society's rhythm, but their own internal compass. For instance, spending long hours alone may seem isolating to most, yet research shows solitude can increase creativity, problem-solving ability, and emotional regulation. Similarly, detaching from social noise doesn't mean disinterest. It reflects a conscious choice to protect mental clarity. Over time, these consistent choices forge resilience, independence, and a quiet confidence. What appears difficult to the average man, discipline, patience, and emotional restraint become second nature for the Sigma. His life teaches us that strength is not always loud. Sometimes it thrives in silence.